Okay, welcome everybody. This is a video we're making for those of you that weren't in class on Friday. Just make sure you don't fall behind. I've got a project open called Fun with Strings. It's probably the one you have open if you open up your BlueJ, what we did last time in class. If you don't have that code, just go up to the File menu in BlueJ and make a brand new project. There's no code to download. We're just going to start from scratch. So this first program is going to be another example of how to use strings in a little bit of an interesting way. So I'm going to click on New Class. I'm going to make a console program, and I'm going to call it Lingo Program. You can call it whatever you want. I'm calling mine Lingo Program, because what this is going to do is it's going to basically do some cool replacements for people kind of using this lingo that gets used on the internet sometimes. So for example, you may have seen some people write stuff where they replace every S with a $sign, or every A with the @ symbol, or every 0 with an O. This program is going to basically do that replacement. I guess you could just call it replacement program. So here we go. I've opened this up, and the first thing we're going to do, and by the way, at any point in this video, if you need to just pause things and kind of catch up, that's totally fine with me. I'm going to go through it as if you're not pausing, but if you need to pause, certainly go ahead and do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're ask the user to enter in a phrase. String phrase equals read line, enter a phrase. Okay, that will get a phrase from the user. They're going to type something in. Then at some point we're going to do, let me make this window a little bigger here. Good. We're going to do some sort of substitution. So substitute. Open, close. That's going to at first just replace the S's with $signs. We're going to write that method in a second, and eventually we'll build up the substitute method to be a little bit more powerful. But for right now, just S's with $signs will get replaced. And then we'll print line the phrase. Okay? So as long as we can write the substitute method, we're done. So let's go ahead and do that down below. Public void substitute. And the first thing we probably want to figure out is where is the letter S in this phrase. Eventually, substitute will find all the S's, but for right now, let's just think about the problem of just replacing the first S. So I will say int pos, which just stands for position, is equal to, then you may remember the method indexOf. We haven't used it a lot, but it finds where the position of where some string is in another string. So I'll say phrase.indexOf, remember to capitalize the O, in quotes, the letter S. Okay, that will find the position of where the letter S is in phrase. So let's say, for example, it's at the 7th position. The next thing I might want to do is change phrase is equal to be everything before the S, everything before position. So again, what if it's at position 7? I want to go 0 to 6, or really 0 to 7, because remember it doesn't include 7. So phrase.substring from 0 to wherever the S is. And again, note that that does not include where the S is. Plus, then I'll replace that with a $sign, so that basically the S turns into a $sign. And now I want to do everything after that S. So that would be phrase.substring. If I put pause to the end, that would include the S. So I'll put pause +1. That will be the thing right after the S. So what this should do is just replace the first S with a $sign. We have a little bit of an issue, is that I made phrase a local variable up here. So guess what? I can't use phrase in this other method. This won't even compile. If I try to compile, which I'm clicking the compile button, it should say, oh, here it is, cannot find symbol phrase. So what I need to do is I need to make phrase a global variable. I'll go up here and say private string phrase. Now it's a global variable. Now I can use it in any method. And then don't forget to delete this right here. You're declaring it globally. So just get rid of that word string there. And now it should compile, and again, it won't find all the S's and turn them into $signs. It'll just find the first one, because the way indexOf works is it just returns the first one. But if you think about this logic, this is what's before the S, this is the $sign, this is what's after the S. So go ahead and run that. I'll I'll kind of just pause a little bit in the video. Go ahead and run that, and it should replace the first S with a $sign. Okay, welcome back. Now, of course, we want to replace not just one S with the $sign, but we want to replace all of them with $signs, which suggests that these lines here should happen over and over again in some sort of loop as long as there's an S to replace. So watch this little trick. I'm going to wrap these lines in some sort of while loop. We'll fill in the condition of the while loop in a second. So I'm basically saying do these lines over and over again. And then you think, well, I want to do these lines over and over again while there is an S in the phrase. In other words, I want to stop when there's not an S in the phrase. So the first thing I'll say here is, how do I say if there is an S in the phrase? Well, up here I can write phrase.indexOf S. That's, quote, that's where the S is, the position of the S. You may remember that indexOf returns -1 if that letter S is not there. In other words, it'll return -1 if the phrase does not contain an S. So I can say while this is greater than -1, that means there is an S in the phrase. And so eventually, if you keep doing this replacement over and over again, replacing the S's with $signs, eventually there won't be an S in the phrase, and eventually this will return -1. And when that happens, you will have replaced all the S's with $signs. Again, I'll pause, go ahead and run this one, type in a phrase with multiple S's, and all of those S's should get replaced with $signs. I'll pause and let you do that. Okay, welcome back. We now want to actually modify it so it doesn't just do the S $sign substitution, but maybe it wants to do other substitutions, not just replacing S's with $signs, but maybe A's with @ symbols, or O's with zeros, or you can imagine, lowercase L's with ones. There's lots of kind of substitutions you can make like this. So up here, I'm going to say this substitute method is now going to take two parameters. I'm going to say I want to replace an S with a $sign. Now this won't compile because up here I'm passing two parameters to the substitute method, but down here it's expecting no formal parameters. So if I put something in the parentheses here, I have to specify the formal parameters right here. And I'll do that by saying string letter. And the word letter I'm just making up. It's just a placeholder describing what this means. And then I'll say string symbol, which is again just a formal parameter template placeholder describing what this is. And now right here, I don't want to look for an S, I want to look for whatever letter you give it. This S right here needs to turn into letter, and this $sign here should turn into symbol. And now it'll replace every S with a $sign, but I can do a little bit better than that. I can also say substitute A's with @ symbols, or I can substitute lowercase l, that's a lowercase l, with the digit 1. And you can do a bunch of other things as well. I've seen I's and exclamation points, all sorts of things like that. Okay, go ahead and run this, and it should maybe add a couple more substitutions, and it should do a pretty nice substitution, turning it into kind of this kind of cool lingo. That's the first of two programs we did. The next video will walk you through the other one. Go ahead and run this, and then when you're done and you feel comfortable, we'll move on to the next video.